This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised. Okay, here we go. We are recording both on Zoom and on audio. Hi, guys. Hello. If you don't listen to the bonus episodes, so you didn't listen to whatever I put out last week, like New Year, same sausage or something I called it. I don't remember. Happy New Year. I know I've been gone for a few weeks. A much needed little hiatus. Today I don't know why I say we, it's just me right now, but we officially moved Death by Southwest from the, I guess it's more technical and it doesn't really matter. Anyways, I moved the show to my friend Brandon's network that he just started called EVO. And I don't think that changes anything for you. I don't even think that you can, I think it still says Double D, like as the company that we're with, which is just the silly name that Jenna and I came up with for my own like little network. Cause it's Death by Southwest and then Daddy Issues was on it. So anyways, if you didn't, I know a lot of people don't listen to the bonus episodes because they're a little chaotic and all over the place. And some people might say that they're somewhat self-indulgent because I'm talking to myself and examining things that only have to do with me, really. So they might not be wrong when they say that they're a little self-indulgent. But I think the last one that I did, like the sausage one, starts off kind of dull. And then I believe I got into some family drama and I can't really remember, but some existential stuff. And I was going to do that today. I'm just going to give you a brief and then I'm going to record it. Then we're getting right into the episode and I'm going to do my whole self-exploration in a separate bonus that I'll put out maybe tomorrow. Cause I've been having like I've been in my head a lot lately and not about anything good, which no one ever likes. But it's been a lot of death and just, I don't know, I've been watching as a background show. You know, I always have like a background show on if I'm not listening to music and I'm not really paying attention to it just halfway because I'm working or doing other stuff. And I don't usually watch hospital shows. Like I'm a crime thriller type TV person, but I've watched all of Chicago PD. So I thought, let's try Chicago Med. Generally not for me, hospital shows, or at least not since like ER. There's another new hospital show out on HBO with Noah Wyle from ER called The Pit. And I really liked it. I don't like seeing people get beat up, but like blood and gore in a hospital setting doesn't really bother me. Anyways, and I'm wondering if having like Chicago Med in the background for, days on end is what's driving my brain into this place. And it's a kind of dark place. Just thinking about, I don't know, I've been like really imagining what it would be like to die in all these different ways that I'm seeing on this show. So obviously it is having an impact. I just answered my own stupid question. But like last night I got into a big conversation with Mark and finally he was like, I'm trying to have a nice night. Can we not do this right now? Cause I started crying, just thinking about, I think at the end of the conversation when he said like, it's time to move on. I was like getting teary eyed and I said, I don't want to die. He's like, you're not dying. I mean, we're all dying, but you're not like dying right now, hopefully. Anyways, I don't know. So look forward to that. I'm going to put that out, a whole entire episode about like what's going on in my very dark brain and all the different things about life and death that I've been thinking. So maybe somebody can relate to it and make me feel better. It's going to be a really cheerful episode. But I will save that. I have like a whole several pages that I've been like keeping notes on that I wanted to talk to you guys about all this death stuff. So if you're already in kind of a dark headspace, maybe skip that bonus episode because I don't know. It's not all the time. Obviously, I'm fine. I'm fine. Sometimes I get on here and really feel comfortable, and other times, I guess it's been a minute, so I'm feeling I can feel my face getting red because I feel like I'm not equipped to be doing this right now. It's freezing, by the way. That's why I have to readjust on my yoga ball. That's why I'm wearing like 4 layers right now. It was 22 degrees when me and the dogs took our walk this morning. It was very uncomfortable. Also, Henry's having a little bit, his breathing's not great. So there's just a lot of life and death things happening in my brain. It's so funny. Jenna, it popped up on my computer right now. Jenna just texted me and said, The Pit is a good show. Funny. Not funny, haha, but funny. How are you guys? I hope everyone is having a good start to 2025. If you were with me last year in 2024, you already know that this is a better start because probably right around this time last year, I was snotting and sobbing into the microphone, and some might say like sharing way too much of my personal life, but that's what we do around here. Okay. Well, this is a terrible intro. Sorry, guys, but this is where we're at. I got to get back in the groove. It's been a few weeks, and I won't get into any of the things that have been going on the past few weeks because I think I covered that in the sausage episode. And the sausage arrives this Thursday between 4:15 and 7:15, and I cannot wait. I'll video it for you guys, for anybody who cares. But I hope that everyone else is having a good start to the new year and a happy January. Is anybody doing dry January? I know that's a thing. It's not a thing that I do, but it's a thing that some people do. And yeah. Okay. So for all of our listeners who don't want to hear anything about me or me babbling into the microphone, let's jump into the episode. Yeah. Okay. So today's episode, I actually was going to do today's episode, the week of New Year's, and then I didn't. So this is a New Year's themed episode, but sorry, it's a little bit late. And it takes place in Alamo Heights, Texas, which is a very affluent city, about 5 miles north of downtown San Antonio. So it's like a suburb of San Antonio, I believe. It's only about 2.1 square miles, about 7,300 in terms of population. Again, it's like from what I understand, it's like a pocket of San Antonio. So I don't know why I said that so weird. I have all the information here for our sense of place, but I know we've done some in San Antonio before. Basically, it's a wealthy suburb of San Antonio, excellent school systems. I don't know what this means. Part of the University of the Incarnate Word is located within city limits. I'm going to have to make a note and look that up. Do I not have a piece of paper around here? Unprepared today, guys. Unprepared. It's 5:00 and I thought I would get this recorded much earlier, but I'm determined to get it out today on Tuesday, the day that episodes are supposed to come out. Although now I'm thinking, man, we just changed to this new network. Maybe we should have a new release day. Like, what day would be the best day? I feel like Friday, because then you have all week to do it. But I don't know. That's neither here nor there right now. University of the Incarnate. I really wish that I had somebody doing this episode with me because I feel like talking to somebody, not talking to myself. But I will do the best I can. I will look that up and get back to you on that. There's lots of boutiques and eclectic dining options. The streets are very beautiful, tree-lined streets and parks. It's a rich little town. It's supposed to be pretty nice. The pictures look beautiful. So that is Alamo Heights. And now we are going to get into the story of Dana Clair Edwards. And this story is, as they all are, a heartbreaking one. And you'll understand, they all are, but you'll understand why this one hits me hard once we finish it. So Dana grew up in Alamo Heights. She had an older brother, DJ, who described her as being filled with life and love, kind of the ultimate American girl. She attended St. Mary's Hall before graduating from Fredericksburg High School. She did well in school, president of student council, varsity cheerleader, honor student. Oh my God, all the things that I was not. She also was involved in the community. She was the Gillespie County Fair Duchess. Oh, Indiana's weighing in here. She was the Central Texas Electric Co-op representative in Washington, D.C., and she was the Farm Bureau Princess. Again, I don't know exactly what all of those are, but those were different things happening in the community. I'm so sorry if you can hear the dogs barking. I'm not sure what they're barking at. They're in the bedroom. Oh, now they're out here. That was Indiana. It's probably somebody delivering a package. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's get back in here. So she finished her undergraduate studies at Southwestern University, where she was one of 2 students on the student board. She graduated summa cum laude from Texas Tech University as a Howard Hughes Fellow. She was a member of the Tri-Delt sorority. And then she had always dreamed of becoming a surgeon one day. The dogs. Hold on, guys. I'm going to have to pause because they're obviously not going to stop. And this is annoying. Okay, we're back. They're still probably going to bark, but I just closed the blinds a little bit. So Dana had always dreamed of becoming a surgeon, and she attended medical school at the University of Texas. But when she was 23, she was in a really terrible car accident. She broke 5 vertebrae in her neck and suffered a serious spinal cord injury. And that because of that, she had to drop out of medical school. So she decided to change her plans and kind of her career path, which I would imagine would be absolutely devastating. And I'm sure it was devastating. I guess I'm thinking in terms of myself, I think that would be really hard to keep a positive attitude and like mindset through this. But apparently she did. You know, she was upset, but she moved on, and she ended up earning her MBA with very high honors from Texas Tech University. And then she returned to San Antonio, to Alamo Heights, and followed another one of her passions, which was for home design. She was very creative, and her family had a construction business. So she began working for them as a decorator and designer. The cool side fact is that her design work was inspired by her maternal grandfather, apparently a renowned architect, Reginald H. Roberts. So that's cool. She also, this is of course why I instantly fell in love with her. She had a deep, deep love for animals. It was one of her biggest passions. She loved horses. She loved dogs, cats, ducks. Her dad had said anything that walked, she was constantly bringing them home. She also rode horses and competed in hunter-jumper events. And she loved her dogs. She had 2 dogs. Oh, I swear I had what kind of dogs they are here. Their names were Toby and Grit. Yes, Grit was they're both rescue dogs. Grit was a Jack Russell and Toby was a Maltese. So smaller dogs, but she just loved them, and she loved creating custom costumes and collars for them on special occasions, which is so cute. Sometimes when I see people who dress their dogs up, I'm like, oh my gosh, come on. But then who am I to say that? Because I put Izzy in like a Halloween sweater one year, it's sweet. She also loved gardening and plants. She was looking forward to contributing to the Cibolo, probably pronounced that wrong, Cibolo Nature Conservancy, Conservancy and restoring the historic Herf homestead. One of her favorite personal philosophies was wag more, bark less. She, overall was just a very joyous person. And that word has been on my mind a lot lately because one of my good friends, she said to me a few times, like her husband, she feels like is void of joy. Like he lacks joy in anything that he does, which it just sounds awful to not be able to find joy in, everyday things. But Dana was not one of those people. She did find joy in everyday things. She was known for that. And she loved encouraging others to leave a small environmental footprint and care deeply for animals, especially abandoned animals. So this woman has already won me over. Dana's dad said Dana didn't look down on anyone, whether it was the poorest person or the richest person. She liked everyone and all animals, very loving, which makes this story an even sadder story to tell, I guess. So the time that our story takes place is New Year's Eve, 2008. Dana at the time is living in an apartment, a pretty nice apartment from what I understand, in Alamo Heights with her 2 rescue dogs, Grit and Toby. She'd had Grit for 11 years. He was like her best friend. The way that her family talked about her and Grit and how close they were really reminded me of myself and Izzy. And then Toby was a recent addition to her life. So Dana's plans for January 1st, 2009, so for New Year's Day, was to visit her parents, Deborah and Daryl, at the family ranch in Fredericksburg, Texas. She was excited to spend the day with her family. She was looking forward to hang out with her brother, Daryl Jr. So apparently on New Year's Eve, I believe, Dana was with her mom, and Dana's mom, Deborah, said, "We're going to go to the ranch a day early." And Dana said, "Okay, let me walk you to your car, Mom." Gave her a big hug and a big kiss and said, "Y'all have fun. I'll call you." And she was going to head out there tomorrow. For New Year's Eve, what Dana had planned was attending a small, intimate party/gathering at a friend's house for New Year's Eve. There was going to be food, board games, nothing too crazy. And she went, she had a great time, stayed until a little bit after midnight so that she could be there to ring in the new year, and then drove back to her apartment. So obviously wasn't drinking too much. Got home to her apartment sometime around 1 a.m., walked her dogs, and was going to prepare, to head to her family ranch the next day. The next morning, her parents are out at the ranch and waiting to hear from Dana. And the morning's going on, and no word from Dana. And this is weird. She's very close with her family. They talk frequently, and she was heading out there for New Year's Day. So they were expecting to hear from her for sure. And so the last time that her parents spoke to Dana was at 5:30 p.m. on December 31st, the night before. On New Year's Day, they didn't hear from her. Okay, they thought, maybe she's just sleeping in. She had a long night, something like that. But as the day went on, they began to get very worried because she was supposed to be there earlier in the day. It was unlike Dana to not be in touch. So by late afternoon, they were very worried when they couldn't reach her, and they decided to drive back to Alamo Heights to her apartment to check on her. So Deborah and Daryl, her parents, arrived at Dana's apartment. Everything seemed normal from the outside. They had a key, so they let themselves in. And the first thing they noticed was there was no dogs barking. Grit and Toby typically barked and, like normal dogs do, ran up to the door to see whoever is there and whoever's coming in. So that was very strange. There was no dogs. Nobody greeted them. The apartment was very dark. So they walked in and they just felt like something is off. And it was. As they searched the apartment, walked through the apartment, they found their daughter lying face down in the bathroom with a towel covering her face. And Deborah reached down to touch her daughter's leg. They thought maybe she had like fallen and passed out, but unfortunately her leg was cold. She was dead. And moments after that, Toby emerged from a little hiding spot. He was very scared, clearly, because he had been hiding. But Grit was nowhere to be found. Her best friend dog was nowhere to be found. Now, there were some blood droplets around. There was a rolled up carpet nearby, and the area where she was found was a little bit in disarray. But despite all of this, initially, investigators, when they arrived on scene, they thought this could be an accident. She tripped, she fell, she hit her head on the tile or something like that. But the autopsy, once they performed the autopsy, it revealed that she had actually died from asphyxiation caused by ligature strangulation. So exactly what I just said. She was strangled with some type of ligature. In addition to that, she had sustained several blows to the head, blunt force trauma to the head, repeatedly. But there was no robbery. There was no sign of forced entry. Nothing was taken, and there didn't seem to be any sexual assault. But at this time, now her death was obviously ruled a homicide. The only thing that was missing from the scene was her dog, Grit. Now, whoever did this could have left the door open, and while Toby ran and hid in the house, Grit could have run away. That was certainly an option. But police, once this was ruled a homicide, were thinking, I wonder if somebody took the dog. And that would make this very personal. So news quickly spread that Dana had been murdered, and friends came and gathered at the Edwards house to comfort the family. One of the people who came was Dana's ex-boyfriend, Thomas Ford, which was perhaps a little surprising because they had a tough breakup, which I'm going to get into. But, he had been close with the family. Like I said, I'll talk more about that in a second. He came in, he gave Deborah a hug. He stood around and talked to a few people, but Deborah did notice that he wouldn't look at her in the eyes. Shortly after that, on January 7th, this is so terrible. Grit's body was found 2 miles from Dana's apartment. He had been brutally beaten and killed and was discarded from the Almost Basin overlook. And this kind of solidified for police that this is personal. I know that it shouldn't bother me more to read about a dog being beaten and killed than it should to read about a human being beaten and killed. But it does, guys. It just does. I'm sorry. That's just who I am. So after finding Grit's body, police were convinced that this was very personal and someone who was very angry with Dana to hurt a dog that they knew, that everyone who knew her knew was like the closest she loved the most. So they wanted to look at people who were close to Dana or previously close to her. And one of those people was her ex-boyfriend, John Thomas Ford. So John and Dana had been in a serious relationship for about 2.5 years. They began dating around 2006. Several friends that police spoke to said, yeah, it seemed like a healthy, kind of solid relationship. Daryl and Deborah, Dana's parents, liked Thomas. They said they treated him like family. He came out to the family ranch. 2.5 years is a good amount of time. And so they seemed relatively happy and the family liked him. There were no big red flags. But Dana's brother DJ and his girlfriend Tammy thought that, okay, yeah, Dana and John have some things in common, but Tammy thought they were an odd couple. She was quoted as saying, "From the beginning, I didn't see it as a match, as a good match. They seemed too different. She wanted to settle down. He was more in the single mindset," which is funny to me. Like, how can you be in the single mindset and be in a relationship for 2.5 years? I guess you can, but you're probably not a very good partner. And it turned out that Tammy was right. Dana ended up breaking up with John in September of 2008, mostly because they just wanted different things. Dana did want to settle down and start a family. John was more focused on changing careers and just kind of living life. They were an odd match physically. I'm probably going to get some blowback for this, but because I know that far more goes into being with somebody than just physical, but they just looked, I'll post pictures and I'll leave it at that. They just looked mismatched to me. She was a very petite, very pretty blonde, and John was a very, very big, much less attractive man. Apparently he came from a very wealthy, very good family, though. He had a good job. His family also was in construction. He worked for them. So I don't know. I know physicality isn't not everything. It's very small most of the time. But sometimes you just look at people and you're like, it just seems like a strange match to me. And that's what they seem like to me. So the breakup was really hard on, his name is John Thomas. So I've been calling him John, but apparently everyone called him Thomas. So we're going to go with Thomas from now on. Thomas was really negatively affected by this breakup. He did not want to break up. And after they broke up, he would send her letters describing his heartbreak and how he couldn't sleep. One card that he sent on October 1st, 2008. So, just very shortly after they broke up, said, "I need you to know that I'm deeply saddened, hurt, and disappointed at the sudden termination of our relationship." It's very proper and official. He went on to say, "I just lie in bed crying over this tremendous loss and loneliness I now feel. I wish you would reconsider. You are the person I want to spend the rest of my life with and raise a family with." So I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing there's probably more to it than just wanting separate things, especially if he's now saying, "Well, I do want to have a family with you," and all that. Guessing that there must have been more there. There always is more than just one thing, isn't there? Usually. So he was distraught over this breakup, and he wasn't trying to hide it from her. He let her know. I kind of relate to him because during my breakup, I let everybody know how I was feeling. Nobody asked, but I did. So I do relate to him on that level and that level only. And despite his kind of devastation at this breakup, they did remain amicable. I guess it wasn't like no contact or anything. They stayed in touch. They talked, and they had similar friends after being together for 2.5 years. So they would see each other at social events and gatherings. In fact, in October 2008, so just the following month after they broke up, Thomas invited Dana to his 40th birthday party. And there were several other events they attended together, or at least saw each other there and spoke and hung out a bit between October and December. On December 23rd, 2008, Thomas asked Dana to come over to his house because he wanted to talk about their relationship, which is confusing to me because there is no relationship anymore. But Dana, being the very sweet, kind-hearted person that she was, she went. To me, that's very kind after October, November, December. So I guess it's only been 3 months, but after 3 months of being broken up and she's firm and that she doesn't want to be with him, to take the time to go to his house and dissect it with him again is pretty generous. And that's exactly what happened. She went to his home and they spent about 5 hours discussing their past relationship and how devastated he was and what could he do to get her back, and etc. But she stood firm that it's over. She didn't want anything. She didn't want anything with him anymore romantically. She told her mom it was a really hard meeting. He was going on and crying. And finally, she just had to leave, she said. So now we're back to New Year's Eve. Thomas knew that Dana would be at this New Year's Eve party. It was at a woman named Mary Miner's house. Thomas was also invited and would be going to this party. So he arrived at the party, and it was just small. And like I said earlier, they were playing board games. They were actually playing a game of apples to apples. This was a little bit later on in the night. I love that game, by the way. If you've never played it, it's pretty fun. And one of the cards came up about marriage, and that was Thomas's card. He pulled a card that had the word marriage on it, and that prompted kind of another guest playing the game at the party who obviously knew him and knew Dana to kind of tease him about something that he wanted to marry Dana, and now he wasn't. This visibly upset Thomas. He was not happy about any of it. So he decided to leave the party. He left the party before midnight. He claimed he wasn't having a good time, and he was going straight home. Again, Dana didn't leave until after midnight. She stayed for the new year. So remember, all of this is, Thomas is now, well, he's not a suspect. He's a person of interest, let's say. He's one of the first people that after they found Grit's body, they wanted to talk to, and they did. And he agreed to. He came in and agreed to be interviewed by detectives without a lawyer, which I will never understand. I do understand it. I'm sorry. I know people think it makes them look less guilty to be just like, let me tell you everything. No problem. I have nothing to hide. It doesn't matter. Lawyer, nothing else, just lawyer. Sorry. So Thomas said, it's been tough. And the detective says, sure. Do you have any idea why somebody would have? And Thomas cuts him off and says, no. The detective finishes and says, wanted to hurt her? Thomas says, no, I have no idea. So the detective is questioning him about everything. But he asked about the New Year's Eve party and like, when did you get there? When did you leave, etc. And so the detective says, okay, so you go home, you change, and with a few minutes, you're out. And Thomas said, yeah, I go straight home, changed, watched a little TV, and I went to bed. Thomas said he drove home in his white Chevy Tahoe and was asleep before midnight. So he left the party, supposedly left the party. Actually, I don't think I have the time that he left the party. Oh, geez. Sorry, guys. Getting a phone call. I forgot it rings on my computer now, too. Either way, he left the party before midnight, went home, went right to bed. But the first discrepancy that came up with this is that police were also talking to people that they didn't have as suspects, just friends, family, of course, regular murder investigation. And one friend, it was actually Thomas's closest, longest friends, and then one of Dana's friends, so a male and a female, they around 12:45 were going to return a beer cooler that Thomas had accidentally left at the party. And they were just going, I think they were just going to like leave it in front of his place. And perhaps they did, but they noted that they didn't see Thomas's car. They didn't see his car parked outside. Sorry, guys. They didn't. See, this is always the thing. Do I pause or are they going to stop barking quickly enough? Let's pause. Okay. So I was just about to say that I'm wondering if that's my leggings that got delivered. Nope. I'll save it till last. Okay, let's go. Let's keep going. So they didn't see his car. They didn't see his car parked outside. And apparently sometimes he'd park across the street from where he lived at a church. They didn't see it there either. And they noticed that in that moment and remembered it enough so that they mentioned it to police when they were interviewed. And so that was his first interview with police, no lawyer. Within a few days of that interview, police found some additional things that put some possible holes in his story. They found evidence that that basically made them doubt his story. It wasn't, well, I'll tell you the evidence and you decide. They found a surveillance tape. Now, the surveillance tape wasn't very clear. It was pretty dark, a bit grainy, but there was a camera across the street from Dana's condo complex. I guess it wasn't apartments, it was condos. And it showed a white SUV resembling Thomas's white Tahoe entering and exiting Dana's complex multiple times. So the SUV entered and left the complex twice between 11:20 and midnight. And then a few minutes later, someone is seen walking into the complex, and police thought that this was Thomas because the clothes that he wore to the party are the clothes that they saw on this tape, to the best of their ability to decipher the tape. So the detective had asked him, "Do you remember what you were wearing that night?" And Thomas had said jeans, a red shirt, and a tan vest. Investigators had also asked Thomas for those clothes, like in the weeks after the murder. Now we're several weeks past the murder. They've asked him for these clothes a few times, and he said no every time, refused to turn them over. And then he hired a lawyer. So also on the surveillance tape, so we see the SUV go in and out of the complex between 11:20 and midnight. Then we see somebody walking into the complex that very much resembles Thomas. And Thomas is not a small man. He's he's probably 250 pounds. I have no idea how tall he is, but he's a big person, bigger person. And so they see somebody that they believe is Thomas. Again, they can't be 100% sure. And then at 2:07 a.m., the white SUV is now seen again, leaving the area, returning over an hour later, and then leaving again after a brief stop. All very weird. Nobody's sure what's happening. What's he doing? And they can't really tell. Apparently there's not enough clear footage at this point to determine this is definitely his Tahoe. This is definitely him walking in and out. But this is what they believe has happened. And this should be enough evidence to charge him, but they're looking for more. And so this investigation drags on for most of 2009, all the while Thomas is a free man. About a year after the murder, investigators caught a break that they were looking for that made them feel confident enough to arrest Thomas and charge him with murder. And that was DNA on the towel that was covering Dana's face. They found DNA on that towel that matched Thomas's DNA. He was very quickly arrested and charged with murder. But it was not going to be an easy conviction. And we will get there in a second after I share with you something that Dana's mom did that I think is I want to hug her and be like, good for you. Good for you. Because I don't know how I don't have kids, so I can't imagine. I can only compare it to losing my mom and she died of cancer. So much different than being brutally murdered well before her time. I was going to say, I guess some people could argue it's not a murder, but nope, not going there. Sorry, guys. This is a tough episode probably to listen to because I feel like it's a tough one for me to tell. I'm a little bit rusty here. So I apologize. Anyways, I can't imagine the hell that Dana's parents must have been going through. So the fact that her mom did this, I think is really, I wanted to say spirited, but that doesn't work. So I don't know. You tell me what word would work. I'm not sure. Basically, Dana's mom inundated Thomas with cards and letters reminding him of what he had done to Dana and Dana's family leading up to the trial. So, and it started on February 14th, 2009. She sent him a Valentine's Day card with the words, "I'm thinking of you." she says, she was quoted as saying, "I wanted him to know that I was thinking about him and that he needed to think about me." So she's completely like, Dana's family is convinced that Thomas is the murderer. And she's not going to Deborah's not going to let him think that for a second anybody thinks he's innocent. And I love that. She also sent a Mother's Day card to him, and inside it said, "Mother's Day, ... never the same." She sent emails from her daughter's account, from Dana's account, that said, "How long were you planning this murder?" Another card read, "Remember how you ended her life?" And there was a photo in it with Dana as a child. Lots and lots of letters, which I think good for you. Good for you, Deborah. It took a year for Thomas to be arrested, and then it took 2 more years for him to be brought to trial. So just what the waiting, I cannot imagine what it must have done to this family. And this is nothing new. Certainly we've had plenty of cases where justice is not served and families are put through absolute hell. So once they finally did get to trial, it was going to be an incredible uphill battle. Namely because critical evidence that the prosecution needed went missing. Now, Thomas's defense attorney was like one of the top, most expensive, most experienced defense attorneys in all of San Antonio. And the prosecution, it's interesting, one of the prosecutors was actually that defense attorney's student in school. Like the defense attorney taught a class, and now he was going head to head with her in an actual murder case. So there were 3 female prosecutors and then 1 male defense attorney. And the prosecutors were planning to really rely a lot, maybe not rely on, but the evidence was important to the case. The investigators lost Dana's fingernail clippings. They lost the underwear that she was wearing the night she was killed. And which I have so many things to say about that. And I really couldn't find that much information, but like, how the fuck do you lose the underwear that a murder victim is wearing? I mean, I don't understand it. And I don't know enough about the chain of, why can't I think of what it's called? But you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know enough about like evidence is at the scene and then you bag it, you tag it, it goes where? In the van, in the CSI van, and then goes to the evidence locker? I don't know. So I don't know enough about that process to know, is there a viable reason that you could lose evidence like that? I don't know. It seems like absolutely ridiculous to me. And that wasn't all. That wasn't the only evidence that they lost. So prosecutors did end up finding clearer footage. They found a second surveillance camera that had much, much clearer footage. You couldn't 100% make out that it was Thomas or his SUV, but you could make out that it was a male. You could make out his clothes. It was definitely much more clear. That footage was also lost. So the only thing the prosecution had to rely on then was this dark, grainy footage that had really no details. You couldn't tell if it was a man or a female. You couldn't identify the make or model of the car. And they did try to enhance the footage. They couldn't. Nothing could be fixed. But despite all of these setbacks, the prosecution was arguing that Thomas entered the complex in and out. He drove in and out. Then once he drove out, he parked nearby and waited for Dana to come home. And then he walked into the complex. Now, I'm going to go back to the prosecution's argument in a second, but the defense's argument, Thomas's lawyer said, "Look very carefully at the evidence and you will find that Thomas Ford is not guilty. I'm very worried that an innocent man could be convicted." Thomas claimed he went straight to bed that night, and the defense argued that his car was parked outside the home, but the friends who were dropping the beer cooler off, it was poorly lit, so they just didn't see his car. He said that the DNA on the towel it could have come from a prior visit to Dana's apartment. Remember, he, I guess, had been at her apartment 10 days earlier. I think I said that she went to his place. Perhaps it was that it must have been that he went to her place, to talk about, 10 days earlier was December 23rd, to talk about their relationship. But then, no, but that doesn't make sense, because remember she said to her mom, but I just had to leave. She wouldn't leave her own apartment. Well, apparently Thomas was at Dana's apartment 10 days earlier, because that's what the defense argued, that the DNA could have come from then. And then beyond that, the defense argued the police left that towel at the crime scene for about a week. It wasn't like collected and taken in and put in a bag that day that they found Dana. So it can be kind of degraded, is what they're arguing there. The defense also said that the white SUV seen in the surveillance footage, common vehicle, couldn't definitively tie that to Thomas, which was true because the good surveillance footage was lost. And then the defense went in on Dana's mom and tried to really kind of sully the image of Dana's family by saying that Dana's mom was attacking Thomas before even knowing, he was innocent until proven guilty, and she's attacking him and harassing him. She went on the stand and they asked her, the defense attorney asked her a lot of questions about this. And she basically was like, yeah, I sent that. Yeah, I sent those cards. Yep. She was very much stood behind her actions. And again, I say fucking good for her. The defense made a very strong case, and the prosecution certainly seemed to be at a disadvantage at this point. But they had one more thing up their sleeve, and it was the most damning piece of evidence. They said it was more powerful than DNA, more powerful than the surveillance video, and that it would put Thomas, squarely at the scene of the murder. And in an article I read, whoever wrote the article did a great job. And they said, Thomas very quickly learned why they say anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So from Thomas's police interview, the first one, he says, I want you all to know that I will do everything to help out. And the detective says, okay. Did anybody else use your phone that night? And Thomas says, no, that would have been impossible. And the detective says, once you went home from the party, you went straight home. And Thomas says, yes, I go straight home. So prosecutors were using this against him. They used almost everything he said in his interviews against him. But their biggest argument was that this exchange, this interrogation, locks Thomas into a lie. He said, I was home, I was asleep, I didn't leave the bed until 7 a.m. the next day. Well, of course, the surveillance images to the prosecution proves that that's not true, but it's not like without a doubt. We can't know for sure. We don't have his license plate number. We can't make it out, have facial recognition. So the prosecution comes in with exactly what they need to nail Thomas, and that is, as you may have guessed, cell phone records. One of the prosecutors says, we tracked the defendant's activities from 8:30 that evening on New Year's Eve until 9 a.m. the next morning. He actually said he turned his phone off. He was in bed before midnight and turned his phone off. But that is not what the cell phone records tell. And they tell a very different story. So cell phone records, we know, have the latitude and longitude for the towers that the phone is using, or at least, look, I don't know if that's changed now in 2025, but in 2009, this is what was happening. I'd imagine it's the same. I should look that up. Cell phone towers. So prosecutors used Google Maps to locate the towers and show exactly where Thomas went and when. They also had an AT&T engineer named Ken, and he, quote on the stand, said, if you tell somebody that you were home all night long and you really weren't, then if you took your cell phone with you, we're going to find out. You can't hide it. So the cell phone records placed Thomas at Dana's apartment complex on the night of the murder. There was a call to his phone, which went straight to voicemail. And that pinged off of the towers near Dana's apartment, not his own. And that was around midnight. He also received a text at 1:30 a.m. and that pinged a tower 2 miles from Dana's apartment, the same exact area where her dog Grit's body was found. The prosecution argued that Thomas waited for Dana to come home, killed her, and then went and disposed of her dog's body. And the defense attorneys, trying to downplay this. Oh, historical cell phone tower usage is voodoo. It's junk science, which it's not. And of course, the defense found experts of their own who insist that it's not possible to pinpoint a phone's location based on what tower it used. But it doesn't matter about their own experts. The defense attorney needs to get Ken from AT&T, who's the prosecution's witness, to agree that cell phone records can be unreliable. So the defense attorney says, you cannot say to a certainty that it was actually in that sector, can you? And Ken says, I think you have an very high degree of accuracy on that. We make multi-billion-dollar decisions based on what this tool tells us. The defense attorney says, sure, not believing him. So the prosecution, hold on, Indiana. The prosecution argues that jurors can either believe Thomas Ford or they can believe the cell phone records, but they cannot believe both because Thomas had an alibi and these cell phone records completely pierced that alibi. It was a stressful 8-hour wait while the jury deliberated because there wasn't a ton of evidence. I mean, a lot of evidence was lost and the evidence that remained was not, to me, the cell phone records, that's enough, done, guilty. But, an entire jury going to feel that way? Well, they did. They found Thomas guilty of Dana's murder. And he was, I hate this. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison, which means if he serves his entire sentence, he'll be 80-ish by the time he gets out, if he lives that long. But he's eligible for parole in 20 years, which is what? In 4 years, that means he's eligible for parole. Of course, he's filed appeals. They have been denied and he is still in prison. But to me, that... I don't know. 40 years in prison, 20 years eligible for parole. Now, don't get me wrong. I can't imagine spending a week in prison, let alone 20 years. But 20 years, he's 60. He can get out and still have a life. People start new careers at 60, and he doesn't deserve to. A little piece that I thought was very sad and sweet is that during the entire trial, Dana's father carried both her ashes and her dog Grit's ashes to court every single day. And after the trial, her brother DJ organized a memorial service, and it was just so fitting for her. It was they had lots of homeless puppies who needed to be adopted from local shelters, and every single puppy that was there at that memorial was adopted and found a home. I don't know why. I just felt like I was going to cry. Sorry. DJ's girlfriend said, I know that she was happy when she was looking down on us and seeing those sweet little animals being offered a second chance. It was very special. It was so Dana. Oh, God, I just got so choked up. I don't ever get choked up telling these stories, which makes me question myself sometimes. Man. But I don't know, she just sounds like I feel like a kinship to her with the animal thing. And guys, I've been thinking about death so much lately, and it's about to be that time of the month, like I said last week, and I'm just very cry-ish. Yesterday I cried, today I cried. And I'm really happy. Everything's going really well. I mean, let's not exaggerate, really well. Everything's going well. Everything's, Stuff with Jim is good and exciting. Stuff with Brandon's good and exciting. I'm actually potentially, I think, flying out to LA just for a day, just for like the day, flying in the morning, coming home at night, to go meet some of Brandon's business partners next week, and things with Mark are great. Like, everything's good. So it really just must be hormones. And for all the men listening, I know that you're probably rolling your eyes, but it is a real fucking thing. I really wish that there was a way for a man to experience like crying and you don't really know why, it like you feel sad, but there's no logical reason for you to be sad. Anyways, that's a whole other conversation, but I wish that I had perhaps not done this one as my first one back after almost a month away, because I feel like it was pretty choppy and I apologize for that. I kind of stumbled through this one, and this one, I don't know. I just, like I said, feel a real kinship to Dana. So I hope I did it some kind of justice, and my thoughts are with her family. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I feel weird saying that, but I'm going to say it. And I hope that you guys are having a great day, month, week. We are going to do, I haven't set a date yet, but I am going to do a Patreon Zoom. Like, if you're a Patreon member, I'm going to pick an evening, sometime in the next week or two. And I'll send you guys a Zoom link, and we'll all hop on Zoom and have a cocktail or a coffee or whatever, and just see each other's faces and talk and whatnot. So if you're not on Patreon and that's something that would interest you, not for me, I think it's neat for you guys to see some of the other people who are listeners. I know I've talked about how some of the Patreon people, because there's like a group chat on Patreon, I feel like some of you guys have kind of gotten to know each other a little bit. So, and some of you guys have been on there for a year. Like, this is the second round of holidays and Thanksgivings and stuff that we've all spent together. But anyways, it feels yucky to be like, join my Patreon. But, and I do enjoy having a small group on Patreon, because it feels really intimate, and like I can be totally, completely honest, and it's okay. But I also think it's a fun opportunity for you guys to get to see each other. Maybe some of you live in the same place, who knows? So if that's something that interests you, that'll be in the next week or two. And I'll post about it on Instagram and Patreon. And what else? I guess that's it. I was in the middle when the dog started barking. I was saying, I think it might be my leggings that I ordered. So did I talk about this already? I did, I think. I did, because I think I ordered them last week. The Halara leggings. It's taken a really long time for them to get here, but I think they must have just been delivered. So I will let you know if they are worth it, if they're worth the $30 as opposed to $7 from Ross leggings, which are usually my go-to. And Lori on Patreon said that Fabletics leggings are really good. And I actually realized, Lori, that I have a pair that I got at Ross. I've looked at the Fabletics because, that's by Kate Hudson, who's Oliver's brother. Not that means anything. It's not like, I don't know Kate. I can't be like, hey, give me a pair of leggings. But I just thought, oh, well, they're her leggings. Cool. Let me check them out. But you have to, it's like a subscription type thing. And I don't want to subscribe to a leggings thing, but I did get a pair from Ross a while ago. I didn't even realize it until I got them home. And then I went to take off the tag and I was like, oh, these are Fabletics. And they are really good. They are really good leggings. I do like them a lot. So that's a suggestion from one of our patrons, Lori. And I have not checked the voicemail or email. I'm working on it. So if you've written or voicemailed, sorry. Just getting back into it, guys. But we are at a new network with a new ad sales team. And being at this network where there are some other podcasts on the same network, more people will hopefully find this. I'm really going into this new year hoping that I can have the time to treat this like a job. And not that I'm not going to like be myself and have fun, but just consistently checking emails, voicemails, Instagram messages, and posting on social media and doing, Patreon Zooms and of course the episodes. All right. So now that I've given you my 5-year plan, I will sign off and say thank you guys for listening. I love you all. Thank you for, if you're still listening, for being patient while the holidays were happening. And you can look forward to that, death-focused bonus episode that I'll probably do tomorrow. And please, if there's other cases you want to hear or things you want to hear about, please write me, text me. I am checking it. I'm back to checking it now. Okay. I love you guys. That's it. I'm done mumbling and rumbling. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Love you all. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, good night and good luck.